Hello YouTube, what's going on? Snowflucky's Emos here today with my Kairyu Shin Turbo deck. This is a legendary ocean deck that focuses on turboing out this new card here, Ocean Dragon Lord Kairyu Shin, as fast as possible and using some of its incredible stun capabilities to just lock opponents out of the game and quickly win. We got a lot of new Legendary Ocean support in the Duelists of the Deep set, and Legendary Ocean has always been one of my favorite decks. It's a lot of fun, and there's so many fun ways to play this deck, so you'll probably see a couple other versions coming up on the channel, but this one is just focused on Kairyu Shin Turbo, and is probably one of the more powerful ways to play it, because this card's effect is just so powerful, and it's really easy to lock opponents out of the game, and that oftentimes win you games. So with that, let's start looking at the cards. Starting off with our monsters, I am playing 3 copies of Ocean Dragon Lord Kairyu Shin. This is the namesake of this deck. It is a 5-star 2000 attack monster. 5 stars meaning that you can normal summon it without tribute if you got Legendary Ocean on the field, because it drops everything stars by 1. Now, this card's effect. While Umi is on the field, each player can only control one face-up non-water type monster. And that effect is incredibly powerful. It's basically kind of a goes and match type effect. And while it's not that effective against other water decks, in a metagame where there is not a lot of water decks, that card effect can be very powerful. If a player controls 2 or more monsters, they must send to the graveyard so that they can only control one. So that's pretty cool. And then during your main phase, you can add from the deck to your hand 1 Umi, 1 Kairyu Shin Speller Trap card, or 1 Sea Stealth Speller Trap. You can only use this effect once this card once per turn. So not only is it goes and match, but it also has an ability to just search a support card out of your deck and generate you some card advantage. So that is very cool. This is the guy we want to get into very quickly, because when we have him on the field and the opponent can't summon a lot of monsters, well, they really can't play the game, and we will destroy them from there. Next up, I'm playing 3 copies of Electric Jellyfish. This is another cool card that came in the Duelist of the Deep set. This card, you can send an Umi from your hand, deck, or face up on the field to the graveyard to special summon a monster from your hand. Not as useful in this deck that's just Chairburn out, Kairyu Shin stun, but can still be good for getting an Umi in your graveyard if you have Sea Stealth attack to then access it and play it, and you don't have it by any other way. And we do really need to have Legendary Ocean / Umi on the field, so can be pretty useful. And then when your opponent activates a monster effect or spell card or effect while Umi is on the field, quick effect, you can negate the effect and make this card gain 600 attack and defense. So that's pretty cool. Negating effects is pretty powerful, so I would say the Kairyu Shin guy is definitely the one we go into first, but Electric Jellyfish is a good monster through additionally, and once you stick both, your opponent's going to have a really tough time. Next, I'm playing 1 copy of Giga. It is a water vanilla monster that we can summon easily if it's dead in our hand, but also pull off of Fish Sonar, which easily summons a water normal from the deck. So good enough to have a 1-of since it can be pulled from the deck. And yeah, I mean, while you can play Go Giga for 500 more attack, I figure it's not worth getting that brick stuck in the hand. And then, of course, we are playing 3 copies of Warrior of Atlantis. Warrior of Atlantis is a card that says you can discard this card to the graveyard to add a Legendary Ocean from your deck to your hand. We're trying to get Legendary Ocean, which is Umi, and we want to see it as much as we can, so we're definitely playing 3 of this, and even if we have Legendary Oceans, all of them out of our deck, this guy's got 1900 attack, which is a solid attack on a monster. Now that is it for the monsters. Next up, going into our spell cards, I am playing 3 copies of a Legendary Ocean. So do note that this card is always treated as Umi, which does include even when it's in the deck. So this card is actually not named a Legendary Ocean, which, fun fact, means this card should not be able to technically work, but Konami says it does, so it does. So what Legendary Ocean does is it serves as Umi, which we need for a lot of our effects, but also what it does is it decreases the level of all water monsters on our field and in our hand by 1. So these 5-star water monsters like Go Giga and Kairyu Shin can then be normal summoned out of our hand, which is pretty sweet. and of course it gives them 200 attack and defense. So this card is very crucial for a lot of our plays, so we want to see it. And we're also playing a Terraforming. It's a card that searches Legendary Oceans, so we want it. Next up, I'm playing 3 copies of Fish Sonar. Fish Sonar is an incredibly powerful card that just came out in Legendary Duelist of the Deep. It adds a level 7 or lower water monster from our deck to our hand that mentions Umi or is a water normal monster. And then this turn, if Umi is on the field, you can special summon a water normal monster from your deck. You can only activate the Fish Sonar once per turn. So this guy searches Kairyu Shin, or it searches Jellyfish if we already have Kairyu Shin, and then it pulls Go Giga Gaga Gigo out the deck. So multiple cards off of one card is pretty good. Searches the card we need to win the game, so we want to play it. Next, I'm playing 2 copies of Rage of Kairyu Shin. This card I find pretty good in this deck. If Umi is on the field, target monsters your opponent controls up to the number of water monsters you control whose original level is 5 or higher and destroy them. Then those zones that they were in cannot be used until the end of the next turn. You can only activate 1 Rage of Kairyu Shin per turn. So pretty good. This card can be searched off of Ocean Dragon Kairyu Shin, and then of course popping the monsters is very nice. If your opponent is really limited by Kairyu Shin's effect and only has 1 monster, you can pop it at the end phase, leaving their life points open to be attacked. So it is a pretty good card. I'm considering running it at 3, but since it's only 1 per turn, I'm just playing 2 of it and playing 1 Fury of Kairyu Shin. This is a pretty good card. It searches Torrential Tribute from the deck and adds it to your hand, and then if your water monster would be destroyed by a card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. So that's pretty nice. That effect can protect Kairyu Shin, and Torrential Tribute is a very powerful trap card that we can search for. Also, because this is a Kairyu Shin card, this card can be searched with Ocean Dragon Lord Kairyu Shin, which is pretty sweet. Now, I don't think Torrential Tribute is as good in this deck, because if you already have Kairyu Shin set up, they're not destroying a lot, they're not summoning a lot of monsters, and you definitely want to keep your Kairyu Shin on the field. But it's worth playing as a 1 of, with Torrential Tribute as like a 2 of, and, still good enough, and I will see in the future if I decide to change that. Next, I'm on 1 Sea Stealth 2. This is a continuous spell card. This card's name becomes Umi while on the field or in the graveyard. Very nice. We need Umis, and we're going to definitely make use of that. Probably the main reason we're playing it. As a Sea Stealth card, this is another card searchable by Kairyu Shin. Your opponent cannot target water monsters you control with non-water monster effects. Pretty nice. Good way to protect our monsters. And then at the start of the battle phase, you can special summon from your hand or graveyard 1 monster that mentions Umi or 1 water normal monster in defense position, but destroy it at the end of the battle phase. So this can get your card out. Now it will get destroyed, but that's alright. Maybe we have its effect for a little bit. Or, of course, we can use our Sea Stealth Trap card to tap it out for the turn, and it will dodge that destruction effect, which is pretty sweet. Next, we are playing 3 copies of Pot of Extravagance. This deck does not use the extra deck much. We're mostly just sitting on Kairyu Shin and Jellyfish to stun our opponent out of the game. So we're going to turn that extra deck into card advantage. We're banishing 3 to 6 of those extra deck cards face down to draw a card for every 3. So we banish 6, draw 2. Can't even use any more draw effects for the rest of the turn. And then, of course, I am playing 3 copies of Pot of Duality. Kairyu Shin is so important to be able to get on your first turn that I want to make sure I'm seeing it. We need Kairyu Shin and Legendary Ocean, realistically, to get things going. So, if we don't have one of those cards, we want a Pot of Duality till we get it. Excavate the top 3 cards of our deck, add 1 to our hand, shuffle the rest back, and we can't special summon the turn we use this card. So that is it for the spell cards. Next, getting into our trap lineup, I am playing 2 copies of Sea Stealth Attack. Incredibly powerful card, always has been. We've had this one for a while, but kind of serves a different role. First off, as a Sea Stealth card, this card is now searchable by Ocean Dragon Lord Kairyu Shin, which is sick. And when this card is activated, you can activate an Umi from your hand or graveyard, which is pretty nice if your Umi gets removed, or if you tribute it for Kairyu Shin's Dark Reef effect, which we'll see in a second. It just puts it back on the field. It is nice. And while Umi is on the field, you can use each of these effects. Once per turn, you can banish a water monster you control until the end phase. Face-up spell or trap cards you control cannot be destroyed. So a good way to protect your face-up spell and trap cards. Before this Kairyu Shin stuff, well, kind of the best way to play Legendary Ocean was to just stack it with good continuous spell and trap floodgates that could not be destroyed thanks to the help of this card. But, now we're just fine using that to protect our monsters that are the floodgate. And then, of course, at the start of the damage step, if your water monster whose original level is 5 or higher battles an opponent's monster, destroy that monster. So that's pretty cool. Very good effects, very good card. Usually kind of what I'm finding myself wanting to search if I don't have it with Kairyu Shin's effect first before anything else. Next, I am playing 3 copies of Kairyu Shin's Dark Reef. This is the new trap card that just came out in Duelist of the Deep. You send a face-up Umi you control to the graveyard, which can be your Legendary Ocean, or Sea Stealth Attack 2, one of the reasons it's in here. Special summon up to 2 monsters with different names from your hand and or deck that mention Umi or are water normal monsters in defense position. Then, if your opponent controls a monster, you can special summon any number of level 6 or lower water normal monsters from your hand and or deck until the end of this turn. So this card, by sending Umi to the grave, can easily get out your Ocean Dragon Lord and Electric Jellyfish, which, if we get both those out, are pretty nice. So even if you have Kairyu Shin, you can still get out another Kairyu Shin and an Electric Jellyfish. Really lock things down, and then if you have Sea Stealth Attack, you can put Umi right back on the field. So pretty good card. In other builds, we may be able to use that Water Normal Special Summon Spam ability more, but not this one. This one is just basically another way to tutor out the Ocean Dragon Lord Kairyu Shin. Next, I'm playing 2 copies of Torrential Tribute. This card, pretty good card. When a monster is summoned, you can destroy all monsters on the field. You can search this with the Fury of Kairyu Shin, which is pretty nice, and then use this to interrupt an opponent's combo and even protect your own monsters with Fury of the Kairyu Shin's banish effect, or by just having them dodge it with Sea Stealth Attack. So yeah, pretty good option to have. It's searchable. Why not? Next, I'm playing 1 copy of Heavy Storm Duster. This is mostly just for my duel group. We got a lot of spell or trap cards that are going around, so Heavy Storm Duster is a good trap where we can target up to 2 spell or traps on the field and destroy them. We can't use our battle phase this turn, but we're usually playing this card on our opponent's turn, so that is no big deal. Next, I'm playing 2 copies of Solemn Strike. If you find yourself not needing Heavy Storm Duster, consider playing a 3rd copy of this, or maybe a copy of Lost Wind. But Solemn Strike, very good counter trap. When a monster would be special summoned or a monster effect is activated, pay 1,500 life points, negate this summon or activation, and destroy that card. And last, we are playing 3 copies of Solemn Judgment. Solemn Judgment, great counter trap card when a monster would be summoned or a spell or trap card is activated. Pay half our life points to negate it and destroy that card. This card, when we have it with Ocean Dragon Lord Kairyu Shin, is very nice because if our opponent has limited outs to Kairyu Shin, you can easily say Solemn Judgment no to that. Negate the infinite impermanence, and then Kairyu Shin's effect stays online, and then it becomes very, very hard to deal with. So a great way to protect our crucial cards. Very important for these kind of protect the castle style decks. And that is it for the main deck. Quick note on the extra deck here for this deck. It's not too important because we're not going into it. We're mostly starting with our main deck monsters. So just fill it up with 15 cards so that you have enough to banish off Extravagance. I might recommend a Waking the Dragon package so that you can side the trap card Waking the Dragon. I'll include my video talking about Waking the Dragon right here. Next, going over our extra deck really quickly. This is not a deck where we, combo off and summon a lot of extra deck monsters. So our extra deck is just being used for us to be able to play and or side Waking the Dragon. Waking the Dragon is a trap card that says if this set card in its owner's control has left the field because of an opponent's card effect and is now in the graveyard or banished, you can special summon a monster from your deck or extra deck. So we're going to put powerful monsters in our extra deck to summon off of Waking the Dragon if it were to get destroyed by an opponent. And when you're playing trap card based decks, you got to be aware of Lightning Storm, Heavy Storm, Harpy's Feather Duster, stuff like that, and having a card to punish them for wiping your back row is pretty awesome to have. Now getting into my choices for Waking the Dragon targets, I'm playing 3 copies of Last Warrior from Another Planet. If your opponent pops Waking the Dragon and they don't have any monsters on board, you can summon this card, and it essentially says that neither player can summon monsters. So they can't summon monsters, all they can do is set, and if they don't have an out to this card, you'll just poke them down till you win the game. Do note that when it's summoned, it will destroy all your monsters, but usually not a big deal for that the advantage that it gives you. Next up, I am playing 3 copies of Naturia Exterio. This is the target that we can summon if we're in a matchup that is very dependent on spell or trap card activations. If we have a card in our graveyard, we can essentially negate as many spells and traps as we want during the duel, because when a spell or trap card is activated, we just banish a card from our graveyard, send the tap card of our deck to the graveyard, and if we do, we negate the activation and destroy the card. It's not limited to once per turn. We can use it reactively, so in certain matchups, this card will just outright win you the game. Next up, I have 3 copies of Raid Raptor Ultimate Falcon. This is a 3,500 attack monster that's unaffected by card effects. That can be very hard to deal with for a lot of decks. It means we either got to kaiju it, or you got to find a way to get over it by battle. And, that makes it pretty hard to deal with. If a deck does not have access to either of those and they can't deal with this card, it'll just win you the game. So do keep that in mind. Pretty good monster. Annoying to remove. Next up, we're playing 3 copies of Geomathmic Final Sigma. It's just Ultimate Falcon, but with 500 less attack, giving it 3,000 attack. And it's unaffected by card effects except Mathmech cards while in your extra monster zone, which is fine. There's not going to be anything else there, so we'll gladly summon it there. It does have one little effect over Raid Raptor Ultimate Falcon, which is if it does battle damage to your opponent by battling a monster, that battle damage is doubled. So that can come in handy if your opponent has a monster with lower attack on the field when this card is summoned and you want to do a lot of damage at once. So that is pretty cool. And last, I'm playing 3 copies of Blue Eyes Alternative Ultimate Dragon. This is a 4,500 attack monster that cannot be targeted or destroyed by card effects, so not as good as being unaffected, but sometimes still enough, in certain matchups. And in exchange, you get 1,000 more attack than Ultimate Falcon, and you get an effect where instead of attacking, you can just destroy a card on the field, which is it gives a little more flexibility. Definitely worth the slots. All these cards are maxed out at 3, so that I have some left in the extra deck, even after extravaгаncing a couple times, and there'll always be something to summon, as long as I haven't resolved all 3 extravagance before Waking the Dragon is destroyed. So that is it for my Ocean Dragon Lord Kairyu Shin Turbo deck profile. Not the pretty good way to get this card out, get some wins using Legendary Ocean. This card is so incredibly powerful. You will definitely be playing it in all Legendary Ocean decks for the foreseeable future. Yeah, just makes a quick, easy, effective way to win a lot of games using a Legendary Ocean style. Not as exciting as some of the crazy Fisherman or New Whale combos that I'm going to be working on for just more casual builds. But if you're looking for a version that can easily get some wins, this is it. I enjoy it quite a bit. Let me know what you think you're doing with the Legendary Ocean. What cards you like about it, what strategies you like about it. There's just so many cool ways. It's one of my favorite decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is all this Legendary Ocean support. But I appreciate y'all tuning in, checking out the video. I'll catch you in the next one.